Hi everyone, I'm going to give you a demo of the second part of your first practice exercise, the one where you're supposed to trace around the bird with your pen tool. So I'm going to open. I found a picture of a bird. Make sure that you choose something that is easy to work with. This is just a practice exercise, so we don't want to get carried away here with taking a lot of time. We want to learn how to do this technique and then move on. If you look, this is about what I'm looking for in terms of complexity. I've got some simple curves right here. I do want some areas of wing separation. You don't even have to have as much as I have here. But please don't get anything any more complicated than this. Okay, so the first thing you'll see is that this is my artboard right here. This is the 8.5 by 11 default piece of board that comes up. And depending on the resolution size of the picture that you selected, your picture of your bird might be real small. It might be way smaller than the artboard. In my case, it's much bigger than the artboard. I need to make it shrink a little bit so that it'll fit. And you really do want to work as big as possible. It'll just make your life easier. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm holding my shift key down while I do this. Don't ever do this without holding your shift key down. Don't ever just grab it from the side. Here's what happens if you don't hold your shift key. Well, that didn't do it for me that time. Let's see. Oops. Okay, we don't want that. Or oops, we do not want that. What we want to do is make sure that we stayed true to the aspect ratio of the original, and you have to be very, very careful of this because it can look really awful if you aren't careful. Now, if you want to take up a little bit more space, a little bit more of your paper or your artboard, you can do something like this, where I'm actually rotating it just a bit, just to take advantage of my artboard space a little bit more, because I felt like if the bird was on there diagonally, I didn't have to shrink it down so much. I mean, it doesn't really matter. This blue stuff is going to be masked out anyway. Okay. So let's get started with the pen tool. It's the third one down. If you look in the drop down palette right there, the pen tool is the one at the top. There's a number of different ways I think it takes to get used to this tool, but if you will make this as simple on yourself as possible, it won't be very hard at all. And my recommendation is to do a very quick, rough outline first, and then come back and tweak it. Okay, so the other thing that I can't emphasize enough is you don't want too many anchor points. That will really screw things up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just real quick going to go around and make an anchor point along each area, along each point. Okay, and already see how it's filling in white right here. I have a feeling, I find it annoying. I have a feeling you'll find it annoying. The way that you can reconcile this is temporarily turn off your fill, because you really need to see what you're doing, and see how I'm only just going to this tip of each feather for now. Okay. And I just want these to be kind of sharp pointies. I'll make them rounded out in a minute if I want to. So to make a pointy end, I click the anchor point before I start another one. Okay, click and drag, and see how when I touch the anchor point I just made, I get this little angle thing next to it that's saying that it's converting a curved anchor point into a pointy anchor point. another way I can do this, but I think it's going to make my life a little bit more challenging, is to not make an anchor point at the tip at all and just come along and make kind of a scalloped edge. And certainly this area right here, that would work. Don't forget, if you want that scalloped edge to work, you're going to have to make sure, see how the line just wants to S-curve around right now? To get that S-curve to go away and make it reverse directions, I've got to click on that point, click and drag, release, click and drag, release. I'm not going to worry about the claws. I don't think they're adding anything to it, so we're just going to skip right over those. Anywhere I've got a straight line, keep it straight. Okay, and do not go around and make a bunch of clicks. Okay, that's the worst thing you can do. The more anchor points you have, the harder it's going to be for you to edit this. Okay, the smoothest paths are always made with the fewest number of anchor points, and your first assignment is going to be using this technique. So you really need to get your practice in now. Oops, I kind of forgot right there, but I can fix that later. Okay, and remember, this is just practice, so you don't have to kill yourself. I do not want you guys to try to get fancy on these or anything. Okay, we got a lot to cover in this class, and if you get bogged down on these practice exercises when really all they're there for is to get you ready to do the activity, we're not going to have time. Okay, so in order to have a closed path, if I want this to become a closed shape, I'm going to have to move my anchor point back to the point where I started. So that's my initial anchor point right there, and you can see what happens when I touch it with my pen tool. It makes a little circle. If you can see the little circle, it's kind of right under the bird's eye. If I click, I'm going to drag a little bit so I can get that handlebar thingy there. I now have a completely closed shape, and I can show you that by filling it in for a second, but you can see it's still a little rough. Okay, so I want to go in now and make some adjustments here, and I think that this is when you really want to use your zoom tool and get in close, because it's very difficult to work with all these individual anchor points. They're hard to see, and it's hard to see the handlebars to to grab them, to manipulate your lines. One thing you want to look out for is see how I had a little twist right there. Okay, we don't want that. Look what happens. Okay, you don't want your path to twist like that, and it can happen very easily with these handlebar things. So you need to make sure that, on each and every one of these, that is reversed. And I think I have it happening here again as well. By the way, I'm using my white anchor tool. My white arrow tool, which is called the what is it called? Direct selection tool, I believe is what it's called. If you goof up like I just did, no problem. Just go back and hit Command Z. Okay, so I'm going to just do this kind of quickly so that this video doesn't run too terribly long, but you can see that what I'm doing right now is I'm taking these points that I made, and I'm curving them a little bit. Okay. Oops. And if I can't get a curve on the end of one of my anchor points, don't forget, oh, whoopsie, wrong tool. This is your anchor point tool, anchor point change tool. Okay, so if I've got a point here, see how I've got a little angle at the end? If I touch that anchor point and drag, look, now I get a curved line. And conversely, if I've got a curved line that I want to turn into a point, I just click it again. Okay, so this is a very handy tool. And one way that you can, do this very, very quickly is to just go along and I had made each of these a point, and now I want to turn most of them into curves until I get to this point here. So just click along very quickly, and then you don't have to go back and forth between two different tools. Okay. For time's sake, I'm not going to try to get super, super precise with these, but let me see if I can come up with a couple of things that you might run into. I just ran into something that I think might, be an issue for you. Of course, I think it might be because I was using the wrong tool. Okay. But you've got the little handlebars, and you can use these to be as, precise as you want to be. Okay. So I'm going to, let's see here. I've got a couple of areas I ran into some trouble on over here. I'm going to go ahead and just pretend like I'm happy with that. Let's say right here I could use another anchor point. Like right here, I feel like I could use another anchor point. I'm going to get my Add Anchor Point tool. It's the little pen with the plus next to it. In order to do this, I'm going to click. And if I just click and let go, you can see I've got an anchor point with two little handlebars. Might want to memorize your keyboard shortcuts. This is the letter A to get the white arrow. Okay. And I had a couple little areas that I think I ran into some trouble on with my little handle. Yeah, like right here. I need to add another anchor point. Okay, so let me click and whoops. It's not adding it. Why is it not? There we go. Oh, didn't have the tool select. Click and let go. There we go. And then the letter A to move it. Okay. And I need to change that to a point. And if you don't take care to do things like this, it can start to look really sloppy. So that's why you want to. That's the way you want to do it. Yeah, so I kind of ran into a little trouble on this one just because I got in a hurry the first time around. The way I'm going to resolve this is I'm going to add an anchor point right here, and then I can just pull up on it. And of course, it's a point. I don't want that. Okay. But you can see how if I had gone crazy with the anchor points, imagine how much trouble I'd be having right now trying to make these adjustments. Believe me, the fewer you have, the happier you're going to be, because if you have, several of these in a line, it's going to make your life very, very difficult. Okay, so let's see. I'm just going to, I'll go ahead and convert those to curves real quick. And I'm not going to be super precise about them, but I know I don't want them to be points. Okay. Whoops, what did I do? Okay. And then just remember, when you're turning it into a curve, you don't want to get the little loop thingy, right? Okay. Maybe come down here and there we go. Kind of turn that one into a curve and turn that one into a curve. Add a couple of anchor points to make my life easier. It's much better to add an anchor point, to have too few anchor points and to have to add one than it is to have too many and to go in there and take them out. That's probably, okay, here's something I want to show you. That's a little mess right there. Okay, that's where I got two anchor points really close together. I don't need both of them. Okay, and this is the kind of problem you're going to run into if you have too many anchor points. I need to get rid of one of these because it's just making things really difficult on me. So it's going to kind of change things. So when I remove one of those anchor points, let me delete one of them. Don't freak out too much, okay? You can always come along someplace else, add another anchor point, or do whatever you need to do to move it back into shape, okay? But that is exactly why you don't want to have an excess of anchor points. Okay, so let's zoom out here. I think I've done all I want to do on this, just so this video doesn't run too long. So we're going to pretend like I did a really fabulous job here. Okay, now what I need to do is I want to turn this into a clipping mask. I need to go ahead and fill this path back in with something solid, okay, and it doesn't really matter what color I use. And then I go Object, Clipping Mask, Make. Oh, I had to select the background. I forgot to do that. You got to select the path that you're using as the mask and whatever you want to mask out. So now that I've got them both selected, and you can see I've got the little blue box around it with the handlebars. Object, Clipping Mask, Make. Okay, and there my bird is cut out. And that's it. Okay, that's all there is to it. So practice with this one. It's going to take you a little bit of time just to get comfortable, but by the time you're done with the first project, you'll have it down.